welcome everybody to this fourth session in a five session series on athletes and activism. My name is Michelle Clemon. It's a pleasure to be offering this program in partnership with the University of Florida's College of Health and Human Performance. Just a brief overview. We are extremely excited to have our guest here today from the Miami Heat, but just a brief overview of the forum and this series particularly. Like I said, I've already given the introduction of who I am, who this is in partnership with. It's a 5-part series that explores the past, present, and future of athletes and activism. And so we started, this is going to be 60 minutes in length and a Q&A session built into that. So about 45 minutes of conversation, and then the balance of the time will be devoted to your questions. We've been doing this every 2 to 3 weeks. We started back in August, and here we are in early November with our 4th and penultimate session. The final session will be scheduled for sometime late in October. You can see there the link that you can use to register for the subsequent sessions. And for anybody who misses a session, they can view them on my YouTube page. So briefly, here are the topics that we've covered thus far. The first session was around revisiting my proposed framework for discussing and analyzing athlete activism. In our second session, the history of athlete activism, we had scholars come in to discuss that topic. In the third session, we were fortunate enough to have folks specifically from the social justice field to come provide insight and wisdom from their vantage point. And today we're very lucky to have Steve Stowe from the Miami Heat. I'm going to properly introduce him in just a second, to give organizational perspective on athletes and activism. In our 5th and final session, we'll be talking directly to athletes to learn their insights and perspectives as well. So as I've mentioned, this is the 4th session, Perspectives from Sport Management, the Miami Heat as Case Study. It is an honor and pleasure of mine to introduce Steve Stowe. He's the Vice President and Executive Director of the Miami Heat's Charitable Fund and Miami Heat basketball operations. And equally, if not more important, he's a Florida Gator. So we're very excited to have you here with us, Steve. And before we get engrossed in our conversation, there's a short video that we wanted you all to see. Dr. Sagas, we are unable to hear.
Experience and advance.
Country is at a crossroads in the battle against systemic racism.
And we want to assure you that the Miami Heat will not sit on the sidelines.
We will not stand for hate, racism, or police brutality.
There have been too many instances of abuse and excessive violence against our Black community.
We also know we can't just talk about change. We must embody change.
This is our pledge to Heat Nation.
We pledge to make financial contributions to organizations working to rid the world of racial inequality.
We pledge to support education initiatives that serve the Black community and invest in scholarships to help more Black students attend college.
We pledge to enhance our company mentoring and internship programs to provide opportunities for Black students to gain experience and advance their careers.
We pledge to support voter registration initiatives to ensure our neighbors can freely exercise their constitutional right.
Change begins at the ballot box, so Election Day will now be a company day of civic engagement, with all Heat staff receiving paid time off to get out and vote.
We pledge to observe Juneteenth as a company holiday and encourage our staff to learn, educate, reflect, and have conversations about systemic racism.
We pledge to partner with Black-owned businesses in our community.
We pledge to use our platform and resources to promote equality and social justice.
But let us be perfectly clear. This is just the beginning. Our commitment is never ending.
Black lives matter.
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 That video is a great and a perfect way to frame this conversation we're about to have. So Steve, I want to ask you a few questions about your background and tell us a bit about the Miami Heat Charitable Fund.
Thanks, Michelle. It's an honor to be here. It's truly a privilege to be able to speak to you all during this exciting time. We're in the middle of the NBA Finals, and I couldn't think of a better time for us to talk about some of the current issues that face not only our country, but face our communities, and also to talk about, you know, the platform that we have now to really showcase some of the great work that we're doing in South Florida and throughout the state. I was born and raised in Miami, and I'm a proud Gator. I graduated from University of Florida with a degree in business from the School of Business with a concentration in marketing. So for those of you that are listening, current students, I was in your chairs a while ago, not virtually, but back when I did take some Dr. Denslow classes. If I'm dating myself, those classes were ahead of their time by being on TV and virtual before there was the word virtual. So that was really unique at the time. And then after I graduated from University of Florida in 1995, headed back down to Miami and started my master's in business administration and also my master's in sport management at Barry University, which was the first year of that program. And, you know, doing that at that time was unique in the sense that there really wasn't a side of the sports business to work in. It was more of just either you're a coach, you're a player, you're an owner, and that was about it. And at the time when that program started, I really saw an opportunity, I think, during the late 90s with the corporate sponsorship and activation of corporate partners. I thought was going to really lead to a business boom in sports, and that's kind of why I got into it. Obviously, I do love sports, but you know, working in sports really is not the perfect opportunity to be a fan. But as you can imagine, during this time, we have one goal, and that's to win an NBA championship, both on and off the court. You know, so luckily, like as you heard in that video, our owner said this is just the beginning, and that's something that is true. You know, with my background, growing up in South Florida and being able to assist in many ways, I've worked with the Florida Panthers hockey team, worked in a variety of different jobs in the sports business, and was fortunate to start back in 1999 with the Miami Heat, and then moved throughout the organization and was promoted to the basketball operations side in 2006 after our first championship. So, you know, my background comes through sports and through business. And I think a lot of our local ties in South Florida are really benefiting now from the Miami Heat. And if you go to South Florida, you probably can't drive a block or two without feeling the footprints that we leave in this community in South Florida. And now we have a bigger stage that the NBA stopped playing on March 11th. And then the NBA restart occurred, and now we're in the middle of the playoffs. So this is a really great time to be able to continue furthering to a community that gave so much to us. And I'm honored to use my background and especially now to give back and talk about some of the different things in this forum is a true testament to how we're evolving in this business and how this business is just beginning to grow as well. So it's changing, and I'm very honored to be here today.
Great, thank you. Tell us a little bit about the charitable fund. How long has it been in existence? are there particular areas of emphasis and focus? I know we're going to get into some of that, but in general terms.
So the Miami Heat Charitable Fund started in 1997. So it was a couple years before I was with the team. And since its inception, we've been able to donate over $22 million to local beneficiaries and charities. So a couple of our prime beneficiaries right now are the Miami Heat Home Court for Kids Guardian Angels program at Jackson Memorial Hospital. It's a children's unit at the hospital. We've been able to completely refurbish the 5th floor. And in conjunction with the hospital, we're focusing on a new wing out in Doral, Jackson West, coming very soon. So that's one of the ways that we support the community in Miami. And then also Safe Space, which is a domestic violence shelter for women and their children. We've been able to build an 88-bed shelter down in South Miami. And we support the women going through the difficult times in their lives by hosting them for different holiday parties throughout the year, but also connecting with them at our events and lending support. And then lastly, Homestrong, which is the military appreciation arm of the Miami Heat, where we transition military vets and personnel back into civilian life. And I actually have one of our challenge coins right here. If you could see that. Now, we're not shaking hands as much as we have. Those of you familiar with challenge coins, it's a way of really letting the folks know when they come back from their tour that we're there for them, and we want to thank them for their service. And we're expanding that a little bit now, obviously with the virtual aspect of it. But those 3 programs primarily have been a tremendous help in the community. And having worked with and partnered with Carnival Cruise Line, which is one of our main partners, also sponsors the Carnival Cruise Cares for Kids Center at Jackson as well. So we've been very fortunate to have a lot of good partners in South Florida, but at the same time, those are our 3 main beneficiaries. And now, we're really tweaking our mission and trying to look in different ways how to be an active participant in our community by giving in different ways. And there's no other time like I'm going to keep using that word evolve, but to keep evolving and figure out ways how to support different charities and organizations, and some new organizations as well right now, to really have that impact in the South Florida community.
It certainly sounds like the fund has a fairly robust philanthropic outreach. So the next question is around, starting in 2012, after the death of Trayvon Martin, we started to see Heat players making statements by taking pictures in hoodies, this iconic picture here, which is part of a larger sports iconography, and donning "We Can't Breathe" shirts after the death of Eric Garner in 2014. Were those instances in which the players coordinated their efforts with the organization beforehand, or did they work independently of management?
That is an amazing time in Heat history. I specifically remember that photo and realizing we're at a crossroads right now, where our players were hurt. We were all upset. We didn't know what to do. There really wasn't anything for us to do. And sometimes players will do things on their own, which is great. Sometimes players will come to us, and in that particular instance, the players did talk to us, and they did talk to management. And they really wanted to do something. And that was before practice one day and on the road, and took that picture, and it went viral. And that's when we realized at the time, when we had the big 3, that we do have an amazing platform that is bigger than basketball. Like I said, it is about winning that championship. Like, we're not going to forget about that. But basketball is just the game that we play. And the social justice issues that impact our world and impact our community are way more important. And that was a time where our players really put themselves out there. And, Instagram did start, a few years before that, or right around that time. But I don't think we really had the connection that we do now, in 2020, where things get picked up right away. And that reminds me now of a few things, like when the hiatus first started, like when I referenced that date of March 11th, and former Gator, fellow Gator, Udonis Haslam is a captain of our team, and reaches out to me and coordinates a Zoom meeting with the mayor, and wants to get involved and figure out ways to do things, and looks to us and looks to myself, not only as a friend, a brother, but a family member, on how we could affect change in South Florida. And then the same thing happens during the bubble, halfway through, when, you know, Myers Leonard wants to donate and get involved with voting initiatives and figures out ways to use our platform and uses us as a resource. So it really is a unique opportunity to be able to work shoulder to shoulder with these guys and support their efforts and realize that we can give them not only the wealth of knowledge that we've had in this business that we're fortunate to be around, from our ownership, even to Pat Riley, who's had, you know, close to 60 years in the business with numerous championships and experience that he can lend to someone like myself and to the players. So absolutely, you know, the image is something that I'll never forget that photo, and it still resonates with us today, knowing that those players paved the way for our players today to do things that are very meaningful.
Right, you touched on it, and we'll get to it in this next image. You touched on Udonis Haslem, UD, another proud Florida Gator. Can you speak to the wisdom that he's brought as a veteran to this team in this particularly wrought moment?
Absolutely. I mean, for those of you that are following along during the NBA Finals, and for those of you that are watching the upcoming games, you may see UD get into a huddle and be UD, and he's going to lend his voice, and he's someone that's going to speak his truth, and he's somebody that's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. And you know, he is someone who has learned from the best and has been around legends, and now his role has changed a little bit on the court, but his role is really impacting all of us and impacting South Florida to the point of creating jobs, you know, creating opportunities for people in the community. And then right now, as you can see with social media, and if you look at this social media post with a quote, you know, we fight basically goes back to that 4 years of the big three was one of our mottos. And then first to 16, you know, his hashtag putting out the message there that first team to 16 wins, and more than a vote, a message on his mask. And so Udonis is somebody that we all look up to. We are honored to have him part of our organization, and what better school could he have gone to than to do his undergraduate at the University of Florida. And Udonis and I talk all the time about that. You know, not only do we share a 305, we share the same birth hospital. I was born North Shore Hospital way before him in Miami. And he always reminds me of that, tells me how much older I am than him, but he is catching up to me. And the fact that we share that common goal of the love for our community and the love for each other. And that's something that, you know, it's not always easy to hear what comes out of his mouth. You know, he's definitely somebody that motivates. And, you know, some of our players have said it, you know, recently. Why do we have to get to a point where you have to have Udonis step in? You know, why can't we, you know, actively do it without Udonis? So he's somebody that we really rely on. Hopefully he'll be around for a long time in South Florida. And he is just the ultimate professional and somebody that we can look up to. And he's changed his body. He's changed his diet. And again, it's someone that we don't take for granted, that's part of the organization. And we're very happy that he's part of the Miami Heat.
Great, and I see that he, consistent with that fight theme, he has a picture of Jack Johnson on that on his shirt.
Absolutely.
So stays being a fighter.
Absolutely.
So after the death of George Floyd in May, the Heat as an organization pledged not to sit on the sidelines in addressing systemic racism. How have the Heat responded as an organization to this season of racial reckoning?
Yeah, so again, you know, after what happened with George Floyd, and we were all hurt watching the video, and it pained all of us. And to know that these things are happening in our country, and to know that we're in a position that people look to us and they want to know, what are we doing? What are we going to do? And that didn't happen in our community. But again, how are we going to respond? Is it going to be a statement? Is it going to be, you know, players doing things? And I think that's where we've really listened to what's been going on. And the one thing that everybody can say about us is that we took action and we're taking action. You know, Juneteenth was a day that we all recognized for the first time. And it was just a day where we put out our pledge, the social justice pledge. And we pledge that this is, like our owner said, just the beginning. And we're going to pledge to support, you know, not only voter registration and pledge to make financial contributions in the Black and brown communities and the urban communities, but we are going to get behind our South Florida community and listen to them and figure out ways that we can support various charities and various organizations, and we will not sit on the sidelines and listening to everybody. And this has been a very hard time to hear, and we've been very empathetic and compassionate of people that have been going through various things. And in addition to what happened with George Floyd, this was a perfect storm where, you know, obviously COVID-19 was going on at the same time. So it wasn't like we can go and talk to each other and sit face to face. So it was even more challenging. And I think we've done a great job of getting ahead of things at that time.
In the next slide, you mentioned, in response to this question, you mentioned that a part of the reaction to George Floyd's death was the team feeling pained. And this particular post from Myers Leonard seems to capture some of that individual experience of pain as part of that reaction. Would you speak to how players like Myers have responded to this moment?
Yeah, Michelle, that's an excellent point. I mean, Myers is a unique person. He is a very unique background. A brother that served 6 years in the Marines overseas. He's had his own experiences growing up, and is a human being just like all of us. And he feels a tremendous passion for giving back. And not only giving back to the South Florida community, but giving back to where he used to play in Portland. And when we had him, you know, we acquired him last year, jumped right into the South Florida community. And I knew first minute I spoke to him that this is a gentleman that wants to do whatever he can in his free time to help and to lend a hand. And that's going to be an iconic photo, you know, right there where our guys are holding on to him, Udonis on his left, and just realizing we are with you. You know, they met about it. He was obviously torn with it, and then, you know, right away pledged $100,000 to the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, and we'll talk about that later. But where he spoke to UD and spoke to our players and realized that there's a need in the Overtown community, a need in the Model City, Liberty City community, and where he wants to, the second we're done playing, get back to South Florida and not only write a check, but to figure out a way how to use, you know, his emotions by what he's been through, and to continue to use the voice that he has, as well as his wife's voice, and the two of them together. You know, we're incredibly grateful to have them part of our organization. And I know this has been a unique time, not only for everybody, but especially for himself, and to be able to stand up during the anthem. You know, a lot of times everybody initially wants to know about, are you standing? Are you sitting? What are you doing for the anthem? Are you kneeling? And you know, the one thing that I'm going to keep using the word of action is that it doesn't matter if you stand. It doesn't matter if you kneel. What are you doing? What action are you going to take? How are you going to use your platform? How are you going to listen and put action into work? And I think that's something that we all at the Miami Heat stand for, including myself. You know, we don't label somebody. You know, you look at someone like a Jimmy Butler, who had a history in many different organizations, comes to our team and says he found himself a home. And that's because of the non-judgmental nature of us and who we are as an organization. And it's not lip service, it's action. And we accept you for who you are. And that picture right there, it just speaks volumes to who we are as an organization, and who that gentleman is right there by standing for what he believes in and how we get his back, and he gets our teammates back.
Right. I know that a part of the Heat not standing on the sidelines includes partnering with organizations and starting initiatives. Would you speak some to the partnerships that have been formed as a result of this coming off of the sidelines, so to speak.
Yeah, so the Miami Heat is not the #1 retail organization in the league by accident. And yeah, I'm not plugging them, but they do a tremendous job. They're #1, not just selling jerseys, but coming up with different ways to promote our merchandise. So the Miami Heat store, you could find them on Instagram. You could go to Miami Heat Court Culture. The things that we're selling right now they're hot. People want them, not only because we're winning, but because of what we did with our Juneteenth pledge. With the Black Lives Matter collection, we started a court culture movement where we actually came up with T-shirts, and you could see them on our website with various messages on them, and the profits from these shirts we're going to go to organizations. So in the South Florida community, what we did is we casted the net in South Florida around April, and we took a deep dive into so many different organizations, from grassroots organizations to big organizations, probably close to 50 organizations, vetted all of them, reached out to all of them. It was an intense amount of work virtually, if you can imagine. I know everybody can appreciate that. And we had a team that we formulated at the Miami Heat, a Black advocacy group that really, like I said, took a deep dive, and we finally identified 3 organizations. And one of them was the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, the organization that I referenced, a grassroots membership organization which aims to restore voting rights and for those who have had some criminal and felony backgrounds in the past. And then the other organization is Black Girls Code, focusing on STEM research, and then Health in the Hood, a homegrown not-for-profit organization that really transforms vacant lands in the South Florida community and teaches our youth how to be sustainable by living off the land. And I think those 3 organizations, granted, we've given them some considerable money from the sale of these shirts, but our social media reach is over 23 million folks. And to be able to give them a platform to use the Miami Heat brand and the Miami Heat name during this time. And at the time, obviously, we didn't know we were going to be playing in October, so this is a time where not only are we using our checkbook to give those organizations much critical needed dollars, but this is a time where you'll see them. If you're watching our broadcast, if you're watching the games, you're going to see these organizations in a very unique way. And I think it's just been a wonderful partnership that's just getting started.
Great. I know that in recent times, the last month or so, that the Heat have announced a partnership or a collaboration to provide training to the Miami Police Department. And so if you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then in your response, talk about how the Heat decided that that partnership would be a part of its strategy to address social justice concerns.
I think this partnership that we recently announced is probably the biggest thing for sure in my 21 years with the Miami Heat. I'm just going out there to say this is the biggest partnership that the Miami Heat has ever done. To be able to save lives and help is what we do. But this partnership is not only groundbreaking, it's the first of its kind. There's never been a professional sports franchise in the history of any sport to partner with a police department, to bring in an outside firm that conducts training. And when we say training, it's human relationship training. So the fact that Miami Police Department right now is the police department that in the city that we play in. And it's a very conflicted time for a lot of people that unfortunately, police, and I'm generalizing the term, feel very uncomfortable. The badge doesn't mean what maybe it used to mean in the past. So for us to stick our necks out on a line and stick our necks out there and be the bridge between the community and the police department, and to show the country that this is going to be a best practice, that hopefully, the 29 other markets will follow. And they've already reached out to us, many teams, on wanting to be part of this, and to bring in a firm that has nothing to do with tactical training for police officers, The Miami Police Department has about 1,800 officers, and we're hopefully going to pledge to train all 1,800 officers. And we'll be coming out with a statement. We've already done a press conference. We've already conducted 3 training sessions with 75 officers and 25 civilians. And it's not just about the police. It's about bringing the community to the police department. We want to have our police officers in the community be loved just like members of the community are loved. And we're working on special partnerships with our corporate partners where we're going to have, we're going to put basketballs, co-branded basketballs in the trunks of police cars where they're going to drive around town and give out these Miami Heat basketballs. And even to the fact of going so far and like the challenge coin that is showcased right here from the Miami Police Department, really come up with a co-branded Miami Heat challenge coin for the police department, and really just start by showing everybody that this is something that means a lot to the organization. There's a certain feeling that it's a tenuous time right now where we're encouraging folks to protest peacefully, and I know that a lot of the police officers sometimes are conflicted, like I said, because it's very hard for them to be in the community as they want to be, and they want to support the folks protesting. And right now is just a time where our community needs us, and they're looking towards us. And I couldn't be happier that the Miami Heat is behind us on this, and that I've sat in on these trainings and to see officers and to hear from officers and the raw conversations that they've had and the tears coming from their eyes, talking about welcoming us with open arms to their department and looking to us at this time is incredibly rewarding. And to know that this is something that is going to save lives, and we want to be proactive with this. Thankfully, we haven't had situations that's happened in Kenosha or other parts of the country, and we've had our own dark history in Miami a long time ago. And it still haunts us today, and we're gonna as the training dedication to community calls it, recipe for reconciliation, and try to go through the steps and figure out how to bring the community together and how to really be empathetic towards what's going on and be vulnerable with it and listen beautifully. And that's where I think the Miami Heat platform, using our mark, our brand, is something that our fans, look to us. And it's an interesting time because by our pledge on Juneteenth and what we're saying out there isn't easy. And I don't think a lot of people are 100% with us on everything we're doing. But we are going to use our voice, and we're going to show the community of Miami and South Florida how much and how important they are to us. And I think this program just scratching the surface, and to know that we're really going to make an impact through the police department and to use their services and not have them feel uncomfortable as they are now. I think this is something that, like I said, is probably going to be the biggest thing the team has done ever.
Great. And just to clarify, Dedication to Community is the organization that is providing doing the actual training.
Yeah, so Dedication to Community themselves, this is not like we're bringing in the guest services from, a phone company or an AT&T to come teach police officers how to have customer service or how to be empathetic, because, a lot of different organizations out there do bring in third parties to teach things. And these instructors are former FBI agents that have taught in Quantico and have really had in the field training. And one of the main things that came out of this is the 20-second rule, and to give somebody their 20 seconds. And if we can just give somebody their 20 seconds and really make sure that they're heard, that's going to change somebody's life. So for an officer to be able to be in a position to better themselves, look, our coaching staff and our team with Coach Spolstra, their motto every day is get 1% better. And we all believe in that creed and that motto. And everybody out there can get 1% better every day, no matter what you do. And that is why we are a championship organization, because we want everybody to get better. We want everybody to be more empathetic. We want everybody to listen. We want everybody to be more vulnerable. We want everybody to get 1% better. And I think that is what the police department understands, that if you could better yourself, and we're funding a training exercise, an 8-hour class for you to sit in. That's a long time, as the students will know. I know those 50-minute classes, if they still exist, seem like an eternity. But if you could sit in an 8-hour session, better yourself from someone lending their hand, why would you say no? Why would you not want that? So if the police department's going to better themselves, so will the community better themselves. And we want that 5-year-old who's in Overtown, Model City, the cities that we talked about, in Coconut Grove, when they see a police car, to have an experience that may lead them to a career in law enforcement because of the experiences they've had as a young child with police. So moving forward, everybody's had a situation with a police officer, including myself. Everybody has, where that you hang your hat on that for the rest of your life. And that's it. And that's how it was. But no, we want to have these things to the best of our abilities get 1% better. And I think by this partnership and by dedication to community, not only training the Miami Police Department, but training the entire, they're training the entire law enforcement community in the state of Connecticut. They're in St. Louis, they're in Charleston, they're all over the United States. They're a very big company, and that this is what they do. So I think the police department, with their chief, with their assistant chief, like I said, welcoming us with open arms. They want this training. They are looking to us, and I think that's just a beautiful partnership.
Great, thank you. I have just a few more questions before we open it up and let folks pose their questions in the chat. You mentioned earlier that reference the March 11th date as the first stoppage, if you will. We encountered a second stoppage in the NBA in August as a result of the shooting of Jacob Blake. How did that impact the work you do from a social responsibility and charitable giving standpoint?
Well, that was a unique time, and it really did impact what we do. And it really had us look in the mirror and really think about what we're doing, and kind of really figure out ways how can we really use this time to impact. And you know, the NBA has been just phenomenal. What a great league to be able to listen to our players and to really create an NBA foundation that you'll probably see late December, where they're asking all teams, all 30 teams, to pledge $1 million per team for the next 10 years, and to really take these funds and give back and look in the community and find out ways how to not only give locally, but how to impact some national organizations, and how to really create different initiatives that all 30 teams can work with. So we had to go, and we're currently looking in our communities, working with the folks that we worked with for years, and trying to revisit a lot of the things that we're doing, and figuring out ways how we could take these funds and make a tremendous impact. And look, the resources that we have in our community are the resources that we're using, and the resources that we're very grateful for. Like even today, I'm wearing this pin. I don't know if you could see it. I want to give a special thank you to Dr. Schmidt. Last year gave me this Gator pin, and you know, that was me getting 1% better that day, and using people like that, where they're bluebirds in your own backyard. You need to be able to go to your community. I graduated 20-something years ago and never had a pin, and that I'll never forget that day when he gave me my pin, and I felt part of the University of Florida community even more so than I did when I graduated. So, you know, it's up to us to really look in the mirror and figure out ways how we can use the resources that we have to donate, use the resources that we have to enhance our communities. And look, we can only impact the South Florida community so much, because that's where we play, that's our backyard. You know, we can definitely appreciate our fans and all of the great love that they have for us, so we give back to them. But we can't really worry, or we try to help other cities, but it's not as easy. So we're focusing on our South Florida community, and like I said, using the resources that we have, because when the shooting of Jacob Blake happened again, all of us were upset, trying to find out the details, trying to find out what happened, seeing what it is we could do, but again, listening to our players, listening to people that are out there talking, and then using the best to our abilities that we could help the South Florida community.
Great. And one last question, and then folks, we're going to open it up to you for your questions via the chat. One of the measures that came from Jacob Blake's shooting was that teams arranged or began to arrange to have their venues used as election centers for registration as well as voting. And the Heat were among the teams who were to participate. Earlier last month, it was announced by Miami-Dade County that American Airlines Arena would not be a designated polling place. The Heat expressed disappointment with the decision, saying in part, to the extent that forces involved in making this decision think this will quiet our voice on the critical importance of voting, they should know that we will not be deterred. The Miami Heat stands with the NBA and the NBPA in their efforts surrounding voting. We will continue to make our voices heard and encourage Heat fans everywhere to vote. Would you describe or speak to how the Heat have pivoted to identify other means to support voter registration and voting?
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to listening. We have players on our team that we talk to all the time, and we listen. So a player like Bam Adebayo, if you haven't heard his name, you're going to be hearing him for a long time to come. Guys like that are so passionate about voting. And if you ask Bam right now, that is his number one concern, wants you to get registered to vote, wants you to vote. And so when we found out that the arena was not going to be used as a polling location, yeah, it was a big blow internally to all of us, publicly, like you just mentioned. It was hurtful because we thought that our facility was going to be a perfect place to be used as a polling location. But as you know, the election's coming up, and it's not only about the national election. We want to educate our folks on every election, from the local level to the presidential election. So voting is important to us. It's something that we're going to keep pushing, and like you said, pivot to really identify other means to support, whether it's working with the coalition or whether it's working with local agencies, and just trying to teach our community that we're here. You know, this is one of the many initiatives that we're supporting, and I think our players are more excited, you know, about voting than ever. The league's done a really great job, even in the bubble, to make sure all the players are registered. And a lot of the players now are young too, so this is their first time voting. The younger they are, the older I feel. I've been able to fortunately vote in many elections, but a lot of these players, like when we talk about being empathetic and listening, this is their first election that they're voting in, or this is the first time that their parents are making them get registered to vote. You know, so these are all issues that players really feel strongly about. And I think that it's been hard because the players have been in the bubble playing basketball and not allowed to leave. So you could imagine if this was a time where we're able to get out and about without social distancing, it might be a little bit easier for us to get our message out. But I think through social media, and guys are really trying to focus on ways to, you know, support this initiative. You'll be seeing this for a long time to come from the Miami Heat.
Great. Thank you for that response, Steve. We've got a number of questions coming into the chat.
Okay.
So Mona asks, how do you plan to leverage these social justice programs in off-season? Specifically, how can the organization continue to use their marketing and PR platforms to scale this work this off-season?
Okay, so our off season is going to be coming up pretty soon, and our off season for the first time ever is going to take place in October, November, December. Really unique time. So we're working right now on those plans, believe it or not. We have the draft coming up, you know, free agency coming up. So in conjunction with the holidays and this time of year, we obviously have to take some time off. You know, we've been really, people don't realize this season started last September 2019 with training camp in West Palm Beach. You know, I'm not complaining. I'm not feeling sorry for ourselves. We've been going every day since September of 2019. And that's a lot. So, you know, there'll be maybe a little time to get a blow, let everything breathe a little bit. But then after that, really get back to work and figure out ways how to use our platform, because our platform doesn't stop just because it's the off season. It's great that we get to use this time during the NBA finals on the biggest stage to talk about the things that are important to our organization, but we don't do it just because we're in the NBA finals. Again, grateful for it, but we do it 365 days a year. So we will adjust. We're going to adjust virtually, and we're going to figure out ways how to really use this time wisely and really continue the efforts that we started at the end of the NBA pause.
You all please continue to drop your questions in the chat. In the meantime, we have a question from Craig. I obviously think you and the Heat do amazing work in your communities. You know that I have tremendous passion for the role of sport when it comes to positively impacting communities. However, we frequently see community programs / initiatives sort of off to the side of the core business of a professional sport franchise. How do we weave these initiatives and efforts like social injustice efforts into the fabric of our organizations so that they are as important as our traditional business metrics?
That's a phenomenal question. Organic, genuine, real, listen. Those words are words that have to be incorporated into all of this. It is so easy to write for those of you that are in journalism or you know, media relations, it is so easy to write a press release and hit all the points. It is, you know, not taking things away from great releases that are out there. In order to really incorporate these core beliefs, they have to be your beliefs. They have to be things that you're passionate and genuine about. And if you're not, it's just going to come back and really be way worse for your organization. And I think if you're not true to yourself and you're not able to be authentic with it and be realistic with it, and at the same time listen and be empathetic with it, these core values have to be part of an organization. And it's hard right now because there are cracks out there, and these cracks cannot get fixed by just filling a crack and moving on. These are about educating to myself. I've been in this business over 25 years. I continue to educate myself every day. I use social media to see what's going on. I'm bettering myself. So for organizations to really impact their communities and to have this part of their core beliefs, these are some hard conversations that have to take place internally. And they're not easy conversations to have. We've had many of them internally. And right now, everyone has a different opinion about something. And you have to really be comfortable in your own skin to voice your opinion. And if you believe strongly in something and you work at an organization, you really have to voice it and have everybody talk about it. And it's not easy. And you have to be uncomfortable and get uncomfortable with it. And I think that's where I think the biggest growth breakthroughs can happen in an organization, in a company. And that's really would be my first advice is to really get uncomfortable and get in your discomfort zone with these things.
Sydney asks, you spoke to taking a break. How do you support players who are feeling incredibly overwhelmed by not only their roles as professional athletes, but by the climate of our nation?
So I'm coining this term. If anybody hears it, they stole it from me. I think it's PTSD, SD, post-traumatic stress bubble syndrome disorder. That's what I'm coining. So when you hear it, I created that.
It's all yours.
It's mine. I'm gonna patent that, trademark it. But no, look, mental health and health and wellness and mindfulness should be and your personal health should be first and foremost with anything. Look, we've been very fortunate where we have a great opportunity to concentrate on our bodies, concentrate on the game. But there is going to be a transition back. When I say civilian life, family life, players haven't seen their kids for 100 days. You know, players haven't seen anybody outside of the same people they've seen for 100 days. So there really is going to be a time where they have to take the time to transition and use this time to mentally get strong and use their mindset and health and wellness to take that break. But at the same time, to then recharge their batteries and get out there and continue this pledge and continue the good work that everybody does. But yeah, there will be a transitional time, I think, for players. Just look, social distancing and realizing how to maintain quarantine and things like that is important, are still important, and I think are going to be important for a while. So yeah, it is important for players and staff to be able to take a little bit of a break, but at the same time to transition nicely back into their communities.
Christopher says, thanks, Steve. Can you please elaborate on listening to players? What do you and your colleagues do to be good listeners? Do you think athletes are confident in their right and ability to speak? Are there any organizational structures, culture, processes, etc., that you recommend?
So you can't generalize, you can't generalize terms, players, police, Republicans, Democrats. We're labeled. We generalize everybody right now. So when it comes to players, they're human beings. Everybody's puts on their pants the same way in the morning, laces them up the same way, but everybody's different. So when it comes to players and listening, yeah, I know that I've worked probably with over 1,000 professional athletes, from LeBron James to Dwayne Wade to Shaq to, now the players that are on our team, and everyone's different. Like all of us, we're all different. And I'm not just talking about the color of our skin or where you're born or your race, religion. Everybody's different. So really being non-judgmental, as hard as it is, because I heard, isn't there a stat, in the first 7 seconds you meet somebody, you automatically you're triggered to make a judgment on that person. It's almost impossible to meet somebody, and in that first 7 seconds, you already made your judgment. So if we can just be more non-judgmental and listen, and listening is asking questions and finding out about that person, because we're really all the same. If we have some beliefs that contradict each other, find out why that person feels a certain way. Find out why those things are going on. And yeah, these are times where it's a perfect time to get out there and listen. And the way to listen is like this. Virtually, people have more time on their hands now to set up a Zoom, to set up a Microsoft Teams call, and to be able to listen and get to know each other and use the resources that are out there to really take the time and do those things.
Are there any more questions? We have 5 minutes left. If there's one more question, feel free to throw it in the chat. And while we see, Steve, it seems like it's hard enough to build culture when we're in person, when an organization's meeting and employees come in. Can you speak briefly to how the Heat have sustained culture virtually?
Yeah, and again, I'm not just drinking the Miami Heat Kool-Aid. I'm fortunate to be part of an organization from top to bottom that cares about us. That word family is on all of our championship rings for a reason. We work there, but we're part of a family. The Heat have done some amazing things during this time. We've created what's called a Heat Family Discussion. And every few weeks, we have over 300 or so full-time staff members. And we join a Heat Family Discussion. We had Dr. Dunn, who's a historian and author of Black Miami in South Florida. He's just a tremendous wealth of information, spoke to everybody. We bring in very famous and very iconic people to come talk to our staff, and we connect. And right now we're doing a really good job of doing that. Even before the bubble started, Coach Spo would have Zoom workouts with everybody. And it wasn't even as much the workouts, but connecting. We've had babies born. We've had people pass away. We've had a lot of things happen during this time. And it's not easy to put not to put your arm around somebody and comfort them or to see a baby but we're all in this together. It's not just us. Everybody has been through this. And I think everybody's learned things this year that they never knew they could do. And that's true to our organization, that we've really taken an active role with everybody. And, one of my favorite quotes is, if you never change the way you look at things, the things you look at will never change. So some of the things that we've done in the past that were staples with our organization that I thought would never go away have gone away. They're gone. And it's like, are you going to just say goodbye to those things, or are you going to adjust the way you look at things and figure out a way to get better with it? And I think the organization has done a great job, like I said, from ownership down, about reinventing themselves. And I do it every day. It's not easy. I try to figure out ways how to get better and reinvent. And I think all of us have to actively do it and not wait for somebody to do it. And whether you're in an organization, a school, a class, a group, this is the time to utilize your talents and figure out a way how to do that for whatever you're part of.
Well, Steve, on behalf of myself and the University of Florida, we want to thank you and the Heat so much for taking time to talk with us today. We know this is very much a work day for you. So it's meant a lot to us that you've carved out the time to share your knowledge and insight with us.
Well, I'm glad this is just good timing because it's been a little quiet in this hour. And I'm grateful for that. I know the gods of University of Florida and NBA are looking down on us right now, that this is important stuff that they want us to talk about. And, I just want everybody to be more active and you can really just follow all of the teams that you're interested in on social media and myself. I'm not a fun follow, but I'm out there as well trying to do things on Instagram because I'm trying to evolve and communicate with everybody. So really just utilize this time is what I would say. To better yourselves. And I'm so grateful and honored that I was able to be part of this. And I look forward, hopefully, to doing these more in the future. And I hope everybody really enjoyed today and really appreciate what the school does and utilize the resources at the University of Florida.
Great. And as we wrap up, what are your social media handles? Where can we find you on Instagram or Twitter?
I'm just Steve Stowe. I happen to have my name on Instagram.
Okay, great. Great.
I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
I use Twitter for news.
Yes.
My news source, but it's too much for me to tweet. But I'm just a one-stop shop on Instagram, and there's a lot of fun follows with our players. They're really creative. The Miami Heat Instagram in itself is interesting to watch, and they're like soap operas. If you want to be in this business and figure out a way to get into sports, really following what goes on in the transactions, not on the field or on the court, but really following the executive paths of people are pretty fascinating. And everybody has their own path and their own story. And that's something that I wanted to just leave you guys with today as well.
Right. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you for everybody who logged on and plugged in with us today. The fifth and final session will be scheduled for the latter part of October. Be on the lookout for notifications around when we have more information on it. And we want to thank you all again for your time today and take care.
Thank you.
All right. I stopped